Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Fan Art Friday. In this video I'm drawing Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist, and I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who recommended this show. I started watching it recently and it's brilliant so far. I think I'm about 25 episodes in and I'm really enjoying it. For the outlines of this drawing, I started off by using a Sepia coloured Copic Marker pen that's 0.05mm. As I mentioned in previous videos, this is extremely fine and it helps with having the control over the line quality and making sure the lines are as smooth as possible. And I spent even more time on the outlines on this drawing than I usually would, especially when working on all of the little details of the automail. Once I'd completed the outlines, it was time to move on to the colouring, and for the colouring I used Copic Markers. I wanted to start off the skin tones with a pinkish white, and then I blended some pale heath into some of the edges and around kind of the shaded areas of the drawing. And then for the darker shading around the face and underneath some parts of the hair, I used light grape. This is a really nice colour for adding kind of a grey toned shading around the edges of faces and underneath the chin and that kind of thing. For the colouring of Edward's eyes, I started off by using a cadmium yellow for the base layer, and then over the top of that, adding some darker colouring around the top of the iris, I used a yellow ochre. This gave his eyes that nice bright yellow colour that you see in the anime. And I wanted to add some darker shading around the top, so I used a warm grey number 5, just to add some shading underneath the eyelid. To add some shading around the whites of the eyes, I used a cool grey number 3, and then over the top of that I used a highlighter pen to add the nice white highlights that I like to add to these drawings. I added a block of white, and then I added a line of highlight along the bottom of the eye. And then for the colouring of his eyebrows, I used a cadmium yellow with warm grey 3 over the top of it. Moving on from colouring the details of the face, it was time to colour the hair, and for the base layer of the hair colour I used the cadmium yellow again, to use the same colour tone as the eyes. I made sure to leave some highlighted areas around the left and the right side of the head, and then to add shading on the bottom parts of the hair I used a warm grey number 3. And I used this kind of on the tips of the hair, and I left the hairs on the outer edges without this shading to just help the highlighted effect. And then to add some light colouring to the highlighted areas of the hair, I used a pale yellow, and then to give that kind of anime effect I used the highlighter pen again, going around all the highlighted areas to kind of make them stand out even more. To add some darker edges around some parts of the hair afterwards, I used a warm grey number 5, and then I followed the same process for Edward's ponytail that goes down around his neck with the cadmium yellow and the warm greys, and I made sure to build up some extra shading around the left side of the ponytail to kind of show that shaded area. For the base layer of red on Edward's cloak, I used one of my new Copic markers, and that is called Carmine. This is a really nice colour, and I definitely want to find some more excuses to use it in future videos. And over the top of that, to add some shading and to add the creased effect in the fabric, I used a cardinal Copic marker. This is a really nice darker red tone, and it works well in adding shading to the areas that I needed it. For Edward's clothes underneath the cloak, I used a mixture of cool grey number 7 and a black Copic marker, and kept that area nice and dark. And then finally it was time to move on to colouring the automail, and I wanted to give that nice reflective surface that you'd expect on the metal. So I started off with the darker cool grey number 5, just building up the layers with that to begin with, and then I used cool grey number 3 over the top of that, and finally a cool grey number 1, just to blend out the shading and to keep some of the areas of shading nice and smooth, making sure to leave lots of highlighted areas to show off that reflective surface. And then some parts of the inner workings of the automail required a warmer tone, so I used the warm grey number 5 and warm grey number 3. I started off using the lighter shade and then used the darker shade around some of the edges that were kind of more hidden. And once all of the shading was added, I then used a black Copic marker to add the darkness to the inside of the automail and to really show up the highlighted areas. Having that contrast between the black and the bright highlighted reflections really helps. And it really helps to make the automail stand out as a prominent feature in this drawing. Once all of the colouring and shading was completed, I then used a black Copic multiliner pen to add some black outlines to some of the features that I wanted to show up. So I added lots of black outlines around the edges of the automail. I used the black outlines around the bottom of Edward's face and around some parts of the hair to make the highlights stand out and to really push some parts of the hair forward. I also used the multiliner pen to add a box panel to this drawing. This is something that I really like to add in some of the drawings, and I think it works well in this case to kind of have Edward pop out of the page by having the box panel kind of stop short at the top of the drawing. And after that, the drawing was completed. I actually really enjoyed working on this one, and I am really enjoying watching the show, so thank you again to everyone who recommended it. If you have any more drawing suggestions for future videos, then please let me know, and I'll be sure to read through them and hopefully pick your suggestion for next week's video. Please be sure to let me know what you think of this drawing in the comments below, and if you enjoy videos like this, then make sure you're subscribed. And any likes or shares on this video are hugely appreciated, and it really means a lot to me. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and follow along with the progress photos throughout the week, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below. And once again, thank you so much for the support on this channel. It really means a lot to me, and I can't wait to work on some more drawings for you. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all soon.